Welcome to raceday.tv. It feels like an age since we've actually been talking about the world of Formula One. And this has got to be the craziest silly season I've ever seen. Is Alex Albon's position at Red Bull Racing safe? What about George Russell at Williams? We look at the silliest driver season I cannot remember in years. Also, we're going to go to Portimao, where we have a Formula One correspondent who's going to tell us all about that. All of that and a whole lot more. We're so excited about this coming this weekend's Grand Prix returning to Portugal. This is the F1 PitBox with me and Gary Formato. Hey, Gary, it has been a while, my friend. So nice to see you, so nice to chat to you. You well, buddy?
I am well. How are you doing?
Now, I'm world class. As you can see, I've done my hair for tonight's show.
Me too. Messed it up.
Listen, there's so much to talk about. I've got to say, I think this is the craziest silly season that I've come across, I think, in the last 15 years of Formula One.
Listen, it's great. I mean, listen, I think it's part of the game, and listen, there's some shake-ups coming that I think are totally necessary as well. There's some young drivers looking for seats. I think it's still a very, very exciting time, in the sense of, who's going to be where. It's always nice to see, drivers changing and going to new places, new drivers coming in. So yes, it's going to be interesting to see how it all falls together and just what deals are in place and what deals made this all happen. But there's some very powerful drivers out there at the moment in terms of deal making potential. I mean, Mick Schumacher, powerful candidate. You've got Sergio Perez with the sort of sponsorship money that he brings, another powerful driver. You've got Hulkenberg from a performance point of view, I'd also say powerful. So it's a very interesting time.
Yeah, I tell you, we're going to go through all of that during the course of this evening. But we're going to cross now to Portimao, to a guy who's interrupted his honeymoon to come onto the F1 PitBox. He got married a week ago. It is the fabulous Matt Gladwin, who lives in Portimao. Matt, number one, congratulations on your wedding. And number two, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Hi, Sesh. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Matt.
We're top class. Now listen, I mean, you got in touch with me today, and I'm just like so excited the fact that you are in Portimao and you're very close to the circuit.
Yeah, very, very, very close. We lost.
Yeah, we can carry on, Matt. There, we'll get Sasha back on as soon as we can. So yeah,
it's spot on. Yeah, we live literally 15 minutes away from the circuit. Lucky enough to be living in Algarve. And it's great to have F1 here, the first time in the modern age, and we're really looking forward to it.
Matt, just tell us, I mean, the circuit, I haven't been to the circuit myself. We've seen, superbike racing there being held over the years and other forms of racing.
Yeah.
The circuit looks fantastic on TV. You've obviously been around it. Just, what sort of circuit is it in your opinion? And just, what do you think we can expect from the track this weekend?
Gary, all I can say is massively undulating. 16 turns on the circuit, 9 left, 7 right. You're looking at most of the turns blind apexes, so the guys are going to have to know where they're going off it. It's going to be a mix of fast and slow corners, but it's going to be an exciting circuit. It's newly tarred, so not too much grip. And the sausage curbs, I think we need to discuss that as well.
Yeah, the one thing about those sausage curbs, and Gary, we'll see a little bit later in a video. So you've got your green and white sort of, curbs that the guys run on, but then they've got these very severe sausage curbs, and the guys hit those, Matt. There's going to be some serious issues, serious problems, broken wings, suspensions. Guys have to be careful.
Yeah.
Now, Matt,
you mentioned.
What's the
Sorry, guys.
in Portugal at the moment about Formula One returning?
It's massively positive. I mean, obviously, with what we're going through at the moment around the world with the COVID pandemic, the Algarve is a tourist town. a tourist area, basically, from Portimao right the way through to Villamora. And to have it back here and the injection it's going to have, even though they've cut the seats down now, I think it was last week, down to 27,500 from the expected 50,000, it's a good injection to us at these current times.
Ah, okay. Now, listen, the thing about it is, you know, for example, Turkey they were hoping to have 100,000 people all of a sudden with this new surge that's hitting Europe, etc. It's still fantastic that we're going to have crowds at Portimao. When I checked the weather report last week, it was going to be dry. Now, all of a sudden, it's pouring with rain. Let's hope it's going to be nothing like the Nürburgring. However, I mean, listen, rain always adds a little bit of spice.
It does indeed. And I mean, put rain on this track and you have got a good Grand Prix. It's looking possible for Sunday, though. It is looking possible, 59% chance of it. But I don't think it's going to rain. That's my prediction.
Matt, I just wanted to get back to the sausage curb. Now, we've seen incidents. Are we talking sausage curbs like we had in Austria a couple of years ago, and also something that we had at the New Car Army, where suspension failure was common during Grand Prix weekends? Are we talking about the same kind of sausage curbs, just so we can put everybody, in the know with that?
Exactly those, Gary. The big bruises. There's a lot of them, and if the guys do run wide, they're going to break a few things with the cars.
Matt, final one for you. Are you going through to the track this weekend?
Surprisingly not, Sash. We're still a bit scared of the whole COVID thing, so we tend to keep to ourselves. We will be watching it, though, and it's just nice to have it back in the Algarve, back in Portugal, and I hope they continue to bring it.
Well, I mean, I remember when that track was launched, and I sat there, and I think, Gary, you and I even spoke about it, and went, I cannot believe that Formula One is not racing at such a spectacular circuit. So let's hope that it does give us some great racing, and then also secure perhaps Portugal on the calendar for the future, because there's such an immense popularity of Formula One in Portugal.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sasha, I mean, I can, the last Grand Prix in Portugal, as we know, obviously was Estoril. And I'll tell you what, as you said, the popularity was huge. Was a very popular venue. And, for me, any circuit that's not the Tilke circuit is quite a good circuit to be on right now. We've become so used to them. And to be honest, in my opinion, a lot of them are just so sterile. It's fantastic. It looks great. As I said, Matt, you mentioned undulations. You can actually see it on TV. And I know from any circuit, when you see the undulation on TV, it means there's a hell of an undulation when you actually are at the track. So I think the circuit, it's going to be interesting to see, the thing to look at this weekend is the drivers that are going to be able to find their way around the circuit the quickest. As Matt said, blind corners, difficult circuit to learn. So the really good guys are going to be able to get to grips with the circuit quicker. And remember, we only have a certain amount of time to test, to get the setup dialed in for the weekend. So whoever can learn tracks fastest, and this is what you're going to really look out for. And I believe that's the sign of the good versus the great. The guys that get to grips with it the quickest are going to be at an advantage this weekend. But not many people have a lot of experience. A lot of guys have been here. Magnus, this example this weekend was talking about being in Formula Renault 3.5 or whatever it was, many moons back. But so it's almost a new track for everybody, and I think that's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. Matt, listen, enjoy the rest of your honeymoon, and at least you managed to get your wife to agree to watch the Grand Prix. That's always vital when it comes to a marriage.
She's slowly becoming a fan, Sash. Slowly becoming a fan.
Listen, it's great to chat to you, and maybe we'll chat to you again soon. It's wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks very much for your time.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Sash.
There we go. Matt Gladwin, all the way from Portimao. The guy's been to Silverstone. He's been to the Williams factory. So, I mean, he's a proper Dinkum fan as well, Gary. So, I mean, cool to have, a little bit more local insight on the show.
Listen, I tell you what, it's great. Listen, we're South Africans everywhere, but you know what I mean. So it's great to see. Look, you know, as I said, I mean, Portugal, it's going to be a great weekend, and I think just the fact that even if the spectator attendance has been cut down from 50 to 27,000 or 25,000, whatever it may be, it's great. The fan base, you know, is growing at Formula One in terms of live spectators. It's part of the look. I think we all understand where we are right now in the world, and you know, you've got to sort of take the small wins when they're available to us. So I'm just happy that they're going to be fans into that volume this weekend out there this weekend, and I think to a lot of relief of the Formula One teams, the drivers, and everybody else, because it absolutely changes the dynamic of the weekend.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I must say that after this Grand Prix weekend, at least, you know, if anybody asks me whoever won the last Portuguese Grand Prix, I won't have to say Jacques Villeneuve. I'll just leave it at that. Listen, before we get into the massive story, we've got a nice trivia question for you, and I have posted it up on our WhatsApp lines. Don't forget, we've got the WhatsApp line on Race Day TV, also on the F1 Sasha page as well. And I said, listen, please don't use the Encyclopedia Britannica. We want to see if you can remember this. Here's the question. What was peculiar about the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix with regard to David Coulthard? That's the question. What was peculiar about the 1996 Grand Prix of Monaco with regard to David Coulthard? We'll give you the answer towards the end of the show. Gary, the big news that has come out today, I think it has been expected, but it is now being confirmed. At the Haas team, both Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen will be leaving at the end of this season. How surprised are you?
Not surprised at all. I've got to be totally honest with you. In fact, I'm quite surprised that Grosjean in particular lasted this long. It just, you know what, you just sort of feel that the team needs some new energy, some new drivers, something new happening there. I think Magnussen's actually done pretty well. But you know, at the end of the day, with the kind of drivers that are on the market, as I said, you know, as we opened up the show, it's a difficult one for a team because there's some fantastic drivers out there. So I don't think it's made their decision any easier. However, I do feel for Magnussen. Grosjean, on the other hand, I must say, you know, there was a time in Formula One when you thought he was going to break into the top sort of level. It never really happened for him. It's just one of those things. But you know, having said that, I don't sort of fear for Grosjean. I do think he'll end up in sports car racing with the new hypercar formula in World Endurance Championship. So I think he's got a future that's sorted, and we'll have to see where Jan Magnussen goes. I'm talking Jan Magnussen, Kevin Magnussen goes. You know, in the future, I think to find a Formula One seat is going to be tough. I think also, and I've got to be honest with you, apart from his opening Grand Prix in Melbourne, when I think he was able to get onto the podium for McLaren, it's been okay. It's been okay, but it hasn't been fantastic. And so I think he's had a decent Formula One career. If you take all things into consideration, it hasn't been bad for the type of performance that he's delivered.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Magnussen a little bit later, but now let's look at the prospects of what we can see that goes to Haas. I'm going to start off with Callum Eilert. Okay, Haas is powered by Ferrari. Ferrari more than likely want to try and put one of their academy drivers into one of those seats, if not two, both of those seats, and strike up some deal with Haas in terms of engines, etc. However they work out the money. But the guy is a superstar, fantastic racing driver. The other one, Gary, you've got Nico Hülkenberg. Okay, who's looking for a drive at the moment. He could be a person that goes in there as the sort of team leader, together with perhaps a Callum Eilert or a Mick Schumacher. Then you've got Sergio Perez, you've got Mick Schumacher, you've got Antonio Giovinazzi, and I'm going to leave the last one until the end. How would you see if you were Gene Haas and Günther Steiner right now? My biggest concern, Gary, is bringing two rookies into a team. I think that's incredibly perilous, and you know what? I don't think it's the wisest choice.
Certainly not for a team like Haas, you know, where they are right now. They need a driver with experience. They need a driver to be able to carry them forward, and I think, you know, experience is key. And with the night of testing, the simulator work, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, I think Hülkenberg sort of proved as well, with even just a little bit of development he's done at Racing Point this year on track has helped. And I think an experienced driver. For me, personally, it's a no-brainer to put Perez in the car. It comes with a whole lot of money, which is going to be for a team like Haas only beneficial. And I think that's you've got to remember it. Gene Haas is funding this thing, on his own. To get a cash injection wouldn't be a bad thing. Then you can take the chance on one of the rookies next to him, which you also know it's a known quantity. You know what you're getting in Perez. You know who's been up against. You know what his performance has been like. It's maybe it would be a difficult one to say no to that if it was one of the options available truly to you.
Okay, the last one, and I want to throw this into the little quagmire of pieces of this puzzle, is Nikita Mazepin. Now, Gary, you and I know, if you go back a few years, Mazepin's father was quite interested in buying the Force India team. Then he was quite interested in getting into the Williams team. He seems to be the kind of person that's not like a Lawrence Stroll who wants to own a team. He maybe wants to be a shareholder of a team or be part of a team, and then that also allows him the opportunity to get his son into Formula One. So Mazepin also could come with a lot of money to Gene Haas, like a Perez could, but even more. But, I mean, Gene Haas, imagine Perez and Mazepin, all of a sudden he doesn't have to worry about, not that he has to worry about money, but he doesn't really have to worry about it for the next couple of years.
Listen, it's important. And I think in today's era, where we are right now, as I said, to be able to stabilize the team from a financial point of view, I think is obviously critical. But again, it goes away from the with Perez, you can forgive him. He's made it his career to make sure that he's had the backing to be where he needs to be, and he's proven that he deserves to be there. But there's always this issue with drivers that are bringing a lot of money and fathers buying teams, putting them in. You don't feel like you're getting the best of the best out there at this point in time. The drivers that are coming through the academies are there because they're good, and those are the guys that need to be there. Yes, there's results in Formula 2, I get it. The guys are quick. It's not that they're slow drivers, but I think the guys that are not paying or have support really at this point in their careers are the drivers that you need to be looking at, because it also makes a little bit of a joke of the academies if they're not getting these guys into these seats.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because we'll get to Red Bull in a short while. Okay, that's Haas, and there's going to be a lot of talk, I think, during the course of this weekend. Let's start at the top, Alfa Romeo. Kimi Räikkönen, it looks like Kimi's going to sign for another year. But if he does not sign for another year, does Alfa Romeo put Mick Schumacher there together with Antonio Giovinazzi? If Kimi stays, do they still keep Antonio Giovinazzi, Gary? I don't know what it is about the Ferrari hierarchy and the board members and the owners and perhaps the Alkin family and the Agnellis or whatever. They seem to think Giovinazzi is as good as anybody else on the grid. Personally, from my point of view, I don't think he has done anything astonishing that sits and says to me, this guy is the next Lewis Hamilton, the next Max Verstappen.
No, I unfortunately have to agree with you. And it's difficult to talk about drivers like this, because these guys are all quick, and you're talking about such a small fraction. But at the end of the day, this is it's Formula One, and the small things count. The guys have just got to do what they've got to do. I've said it before, and I would have expected Kimi at his age. Also having been out of Formula One for a while and came back, yes, great career back at Ferrari and over to Alfa Romeo now doing his thing. And admittedly, he said it's a hobby. But at the end of the day, for a guy that's doing something as a hobby, to be giving a hiding to somebody who's trying to make a career out of it, I think that answers the question for you. I mean, what else can you say?
So, this is where I start thinking, how does the Ferrari hierarchy thing work? Perhaps they sit and say, listen, let's put Mick Schumacher into Haas and not into Alfa Romeo, because maybe he doesn't perform against Kimi Räikkönen, and then they're in the same boat with Antonio Giovinazzi. But if they put him in Haas together with somebody else, maybe he shines. And I think it's something Ferrari have to be careful with. Mick Schumacher is a fantastic racing driver. He really is. And this year he's really, really shown. But he's one of those drivers who also needs time. He's not one of those who's just quick out of the box. He's a great racer, not a fantastic one-lapper. But all of a sudden, he's up against a Kimi Räikkönen. Let's say he gets drilled by Kimi Räikkönen. You're in exactly the same position with Giovinazzi.
100%. And I think that's the risk you got to take now. You know, you're in the big league. You've made it to where you are, and there is only one thing to do. And you know what? I'll go back to his father. I'll go back to a Hamilton. Go back to an Alonso. Go back to any of these guys that are really quick. They've had great careers. When they arrive there, they go. And there's no sort of time for them to develop and what have you. They're quick out the box, and then that's what you're looking for at this level. You know, I don't think you really have time to learn. Yes, you need some learning and you can get it better, but you want winners, and the winners are special, and that's as a team owner, that's what you've got to be looking for. I think you've got to be like Flavio Briatore. He had Michael Schumacher. He managed to find Fernando Alonso. Those were his two big finds, and both of those drivers made their team and made his career in Formula One. You've got to look for that somebody special, and I don't know if they're there right now. You know, I've got to be honest with you, but that's what you've got to find.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. There's lots of comments through. Nice to have you along, Isaac Pecco, Johan van der Walt, Fence. Nice to hear from you, my friend. Nice to have you online and watching the show as well. Keep the comments coming in, and also some people have got the question sort of right that we asked a little bit earlier. What was peculiar about the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix regarding David Coulthard? All right, now let's move on, because this has also become a very, very crazy story. The Williams Formula One team, George Russell, Nicholas Latifi, signed, sealed 2021. Gary, all of a sudden, Perez gets thrown into the mix about this to replace George Russell. Can you believe this? This is where the problem comes. And on the one hand, I applaud, as I said just now, Perez putting himself in the position where he's got choice. He's, you know, if you can do what he's doing, you're going to be guaranteed of a drive, no matter what, no matter how good you are. And he's done well to do what he's doing. So, yes, you know, the Williams team has been better. Is it the kind of team that Perez wants to go to? We know that it's just been sold. What's happening there? Maybe there's certain changes that are happening within the team that you don't know about. That's maybe going to offer Perez opportunity, but you know, certainly, he's the one that holds the key to a lot of this, because he has the briefcase or the checkbook, whatever you want to call it these days. For a guy like George Russell to lose his seat, and I'm going to go back to the pay driver thing, because we all know why the TV. Let's be honest, okay? For a guy like George Russell, I mean. It's ludicrous. I think Russell's of the level that even a Hamilton doesn't want Russell in a Mercedes-Benz. That's the level I think George Russell is. And to have a driver like Russell now being put under pressure because of somebody with money, again, I'll just criticize Formula One. It shouldn't be in this position. It shouldn't be like this. Unfortunately, it's racing. It always has kind of been like this, but at the moment, it's really prevalent in the sport. So I would hate to see George Russell lose that seat. I couldn't agree with you more. I think George Russell is one of those guys. You put him next to Lewis Hamilton, and I tell you, he's going to push Lewis Hamilton even quicker than Valtteri Bottas. But Gary, you know it. It's just amazing. Let's go back quite a few years ago. Nick Heidfeld was a Mercedes-Benz, a BMW, or a Mercedes-Benz driver. He was always there. He was sort of guaranteed he was going to get some kind of a seat, and then everything fell apart. George Russell has been resting everything on, well, Mercedes are backing me, etc., etc. He might have to make that call. I mean, if Perez does get that seat next to Latifi, I'm hoping that either something like AlphaTauri, Haas, even Alfa Romeo sit there and pick this guy up, because I mean, to lose George Russell at this stage, I think would be crazy. Let's move on to Red Bull. Of course, you got Max Verstappen, and we'll talk about that as well. Alex Albon, Gary, you know, and as you said earlier, it's so difficult to sit here and criticize these racing drivers. They are going, and you know what? It's a tenth of a second here. It's 0.2 of a second there. It's nothing when it comes to the world of Formula One. But that's the difference between good and completely great. The guy's under severe pressure. And I mean, even at least the team now, Helmut Marko has come out and said, yes, the guy's under pressure and we are looking at others. Possible people that could go there could be Sergio Perez, because we know he's an accomplished driver. The other one is Hülkenberg. And Hülkenberg, as you know, I absolutely love. I love Hülkenberg. But I don't think Hulkenberg is fast enough to be quicker than Albon to be up there with Max Verstappen?
To be honest with you, I think Hulkenberg, in my opinion anyway, I think Hulkenberg will be quicker than Albon. That's my view. I think certainly comes with a lot more experience than Albon. We know that. I don't think it's a bad choice at all. I think, if you look at what he's done this year, in getting into the cars and doing what he's done at Racing Point with the time that he's had, I think it's been very good. Last year at Renault, he ran right up there with Ricciardo. Yes, sometimes maybe in qualifying or whatever it was, it didn't work. But the race pace, you know what, he was pretty close. And I think Ricciardo is one of the best out there. So I think if you don't have certainty in terms of Red Bull, if you look at Gasly, I don't know if Gasly wants to leave AlphaTauri now. It's working for him. It didn't work for him at Red Bull, and I don't know if he's brave enough to go put himself back into a situation with Max Verstappen. Hulkenberg, on the other hand, older head, much more experienced. It wouldn't be a bad deal at all for Red Bull to go there, but we just haven't ever seen Red Bull, apart from the days of Webber and Coulthard, when the team was basically starting and before the development programs were working, bring drivers from outside that program. And I know we've mentioned it before, but we've got to mention it again. It just tells you that the program, for whatever reason, right now doesn't have anybody that they need to fill the seat next to Max Verstappen. Or Max is just that good, and that's the problem.
Well, listen, that's where the conundrum is. And earlier we spoke about the development drivers at Ferrari, and you've got Eilert, you've got Schwartzman, you've got Mick Schumacher, and more than likely at least one of them is going to go up there. All of a sudden, if Red Bull start going and calling in a Perez or calling in a Hulkenberg, then you have to question where their situation is. And also, I agree with you on the Pierre Gasly, because Gasly now is hot property. This guy's won Grand Prix. He's had a phenomenal season already. People like Renault are definitely going to be looking at him. Other teams as well could well be looking at someone like Pierre Gasly. So I think Gasly's in a very, very strong position, and I agree. If they sit and say, "Oh, okay, we'll come back to Red Bull Racing," he might just sit there and say, "Well, okay, well, pay me the same amount of money as Max Verstappen and give me at least a 2-year contract, so at least I can actually go out there and not have the pressure of anything." So I think Gasly's in a very, very strong position. Gary, let's move on to Renault. Renault, I'm just loving the way that they're improving all of the time. Phenomenal result from Danny Ricciardo. McLaren most probably might be scratching their head going, what have we done? We're now going to go to Mercedes. There we go. Fernando Alonso coming back, and who knows, Gary, this might be the second time in his career that he's actually made the right decision. The first one was going to Renault the first time. Maybe after Ferrari, McLaren, for Renault again, maybe he's got it just right now.
For his sake, I certainly hope so. I think Fernando, and is a multiple world champion, but he should have been a 4 or 5-time world champion. It didn't work out for him. Look, he is a lot older, but we've seen Kimi perform particularly well at his age still. I think Fernando still can do the business. I think there's no two ways about that, and it's certainly an exciting prospect. So I certainly hope that he's made the right decision. We know he's working hard with the team already, and as you said, the team's improving and just getting better and better and better. There's no doubt about it. And you know what? It could be the right thing, but it's always a difficult one. I think the big problem for anybody, and not to digress, but Mercedes-Benz is still the big problem for everybody, and I just hope that Renault can keep on evolving and at least be sort of a contender with where sort of Max Verstappen and Red Bull are. And I think, to be honest with you, that's the best they're going to be able to do next year, even if it goes well.
Gary, your verdict on Esteban Ocon. He was there before. He raced for the Racing Point team. He was okay. Has he set the world alight for you? I mean, is he somebody that Renault are saying, okay, this guy's at least going to be there with Fernando for the next couple of years? Or is there an opportunity for them to sit there and cut their losses with him? He's backed by Toto Wolff for Mercedes. Say, listen, you're out of here. Pull in a Perez, pull in a Hulkenberg, who they know is going to push Alonso.
Well, I was going to say, I think Ocon could be the best thing that ever happened to Alonso. I think, in a comeback like he's, doing next year, I don't think Ocon's performed particularly well. He's been okay against Ricciardo, but Hülkenberg was much more competitive against Ricciardo last year. Yes, maybe Ricciardo's more settled in the team and what have you, but you've also got to understand he announced he was leaving the team before the season even started. So, you sort of wonder how settled is he in the team? How is the relationship in the team actually? Are the team giving him any developments? Are they sharing everything with Ricciardo? You don't really know. You'd have to assume so because the car's certainly quick and he's finished on the podium last time out, so you'd assume they're throwing everything at it. But, when you look at, and it takes you back to Perez as well, Ocon stacked up pretty okay against Perez. I mean, the two of them couldn't get out of each other's way when they're at Racing Point. They were together all the time. So it also gives you some sort of indication of where Perez is. And so far, Ricciardo is totally outshining Ocon, in my opinion.
Yeah, very, very good point as well. AlphaTauri, we go back to Pierre Gasly. He's definitely, in my opinion, he should stay there. He's done a phenomenal job. The car's going to get better and better. We hope so with the final year with Honda. But I think he's most probably looking at other options, perhaps Renault, perhaps even a Ferrari along the way. I mean, that's the kind of talent. I suppose the 100 million ruble question around is Danny Kvyat. Has he done enough? Is Kvyat going to hold on to his seat at AlphaTauri?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think if you look at instantly Honda pulling out next year, I think they do have the Japanese, what's his name, Tsunoda in F2. Yeah. I think it would be great to see him getting a go. I think it's going to be one of the last Japanese drivers that unfortunately gets the backing of a Toyota or a Honda in this case, like we've seen many times before. I would like to see him in that AlphaTauri. You never know what you're going to get there. The team is made for that. It's made to develop young drivers. And Kvyat's been around. They've done their thing. Unfortunately, they are where they are. If they can't sign bigger deals and get into bigger teams, you've got to move them out and bring some of the younger guys in, because in my mind anyway, and maybe things have changed there, but that is the development ground for Red Bull. And Honda, I'm sure, would be putting a bit of pressure on the team as well to have him in the car.
Yeah, and while we're there and talking a little bit about Honda, there's all this talk that Red Bull might be interested in buying the IP of Honda going forward, from 2022 onwards. Otherwise, they might have to go back to using Renault technology. I mean, Red Bull Racing is a manufacturer, they're a design, concern. Do you think Red Bull really want to get into the manufacture of engine technology, Gary? I don't see it.
You know what? I think that I agree with you. It's something that it's a whole new realm for them. And the thing with it is, look, if they pick it up for nothing, it's not a bad deal. It changes the element, and Red Bull could do other things. You never know what other partnerships they strike up with other manufacturers going forward as well. It also gives them an opportunity to go to another manufacturer and say, listen, we've got a car, we've got an engine, do you want to be involved with us? Like you had, for example, Aston Martin involved with them. It could be a Red Bull Peugeot, for example. I'm just using it for a namesake. So it gives them that opportunity to attract money. The big thing is there anybody that has deep enough pockets to spend money on these kinds of engines that are currently in Formula One?
And then you've got to get the other $100 million question, and that is about Max Verstappen. Without a doubt, Max Verstappen is, we had Senna that arrived, then we had Hakkinen that arrived, we had Schumacher arrived, Hakkinen arrived, Alonso arrived, Lewis Hamilton arrived. Max Verstappen, I mean, he must be sitting there and going, geez, why are you doing this, Honda? We're getting better and better, and if you just give me enough power, the same amount of power as Mercedes, I know I can beat them. And we know that he can beat them. He must also be looking, for example, at replacing someone like Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes.
Of course, I think you certainly would. I mean, listen, the most amazing thing is that the contract's not signed with Hamilton as yet, and that's quite amazing. But for whatever reason it is, but it's unfortunate for Max. I think in terms of Red Bull, the car, the designer, you got Newey, you got a lot of good people there. It's not a bad place to be, but the engine situation, unfortunately, is just it is what it is. it's a tough one. But yes, he wants to win championships now. I mean, he's got enough experience. The thing that's on his side is that he's still young, hell of experienced, hell of a quick, but still young enough to let this thing develop and evolve to a point where we know where he can get a championship shot.
Yeah, I just find it, mind-boggling where you've got someone like Red Bull together with Honda, and then Christian Horner says, well, if we want to buy the Honda IP, then we want an engine freeze. And I go, if you put an engine freeze in now, then you might as well write off the next 7 seasons and just hand all of the trophies to Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, because nobody's close to them. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, it is a worry, Sasha. I mean, look, I haven't even been brave enough to actually look at the stats and draw some sort of graph in terms of what Mercedes-Benz have won since this new turbo era and the hybrid era. Listen, that's what I said. Unfortunately, we're talking about who's going to be coming second and third in the championship here. It's sort of quite demoralising that you've got to talk like this about Formula One. But unfortunately, it is the reality of the situation.
I just want to digress for 1 second, because if you look at the world of MotoGP in 2020, everyone says, geez, what a season. It's unbelievable. Nobody wants to win the title. Rins is winning. You've got Brad Binder winning. You've got all of these other drivers. You've got Quartararo's up there. Vinales is up there. I mean, it's just fantastic to watch. And then you say, well, what is the common denominator? Marc Marquez is not there. That's how simple it is. And people say Formula One is boring, it's this, that, and whatever. Yes, we know that there's this engine power unit issue, which I think they really have to sort out in some kind of a way just to try and level the playing field. But you take Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton off the track, and perhaps maybe you're going to have to take Max Verstappen off as well. Geez, Gary, you'd have Formula One like you can't believe.
Yes, you are 100% correct. 100% correct. And as I said, sometimes you've got to wonder, are these big stars actually good for the sport? Because, although Marquez and Rossi in his day were big names, yes, this year's MotoGP is become super popular. I mean, the numbers are good. It's looking great. It's great racing. And yes, the same applies to Formula One. For me, at the end of the day, yes, if I was Hamilton, I'd go to another team and try and build it up and get it to a point where it can be a winner. But listen, he's got a winning team, and why would he want to leave right now? But that's just my view on it. Maybe people disagree with me on that one. But he's no doubt equals Schumacher's record this year, and he's going to go on and do much of the same. And I think what else is there left to do after this? Apart from build something and create, in my opinion, maybe what is a real legacy. In terms of racing.
Somebody asked me, I said he'll land up with about 125 wins and about 9 championships. Anyway, listen, lots of people getting in touch with us here. Hey, Andrew Ambregioni, so nice to hear from you, Ambro, and he's in Ireland. That's where he is now. Nikki saying hello. Zakia saying hello. Oh, I think it's a little Formato walking behind Gary. Yes, he's having there. He's part of the jawl. There we go. It's all good. We'll give you that answer to that question in a short while. Lewis Hamilton, yes, he hasn't signed a contract. Of course, it's going to be done. But Gary, yes, he's going to stay at Mercedes. But I was thinking about this the other day. Andy Cowell, who was the engine man at Mercedes, has gone. Okay, they've got James Allison. Toto Wolff has now invested into Aston Martin, okay, as well. So he's got this idea with Lance Stroll. He's most probably sitting and saying, listen, Lewis, take another year with Mercedes, then come and join us together with Vettel, or we'll give Vettel a go. Let's see how he does, and then we'll take it. But Vettel's also got an interesting thing is, if Toto Wolff, Gary, leaves a Mercedes, for example, everyone says, oh, it's going to be a catastrophe. I don't see it as a catastrophe. They're a German team. These guys know how to run things. But I don't believe that Toto Wolff is going to be there forever.
No, I don't think Toto Wolff's going to be there forever, but I think Andy Cowell is going to go to the Red Bull Honda engine program. That's what I think is going to happen there. So
I love that idea.
That I think is... you got to understand, Red Bull didn't, they weren't made aware of this last week. This has been going on for a while. There's no two ways about it.
Correct.
Now Mercedes-Benz, there's a chance of taking this program over. rebranding it as another manufacturer, I think that's where that's more than likely going to be the case. Toto Wolff, will he go to Aston Martin? Who knows? I think that's certainly dependent on what the Mercedes board wants to do. It doesn't really make sense for him to go to Aston Martin. Yes, it makes sense for him to own a share in the team, but to continue with Mercedes-Benz, I think would be the most obvious thing for him while it's all going like it is.
Okay, fair enough. Last couple of teams: McLaren, Lando Norris, Danny Ricciardo, signed, sealed, delivered. They get Mercedes power next year if they can get the aero sorted out a little bit better. They seem to have some great people there. I'm a big fan of Andreas Seidel. So I think that's going to be a great pairing. Lando Norris has really proved his worth so far this year, and I think between the two of them, the fun that they're going to have, but I think also they're going to push each other really hard. So I've got high hopes for McLaren next year.
You know what, Sasha, and I'll be honest with you. I've never sort of been much of a McLaren man, and with a surname like mine, you kind of understand where the loyalty kind of lay. But I really am becoming a fan of the new McLaren, if you want to call it that. I think Zach Brown has been very good to the team. In bringing in the right people, bringing in Seidel, I think was a great move. And yes, they've just been improving and going ahead. And there's a bit of consensus that Ricciardo, Renault's going better than McLaren right now, blah blah blah. Also, we don't know how good Lando Norris is. Sainz is going to Ferrari. We'll see how he goes against Leclerc next year. Ricciardo going to McLaren could, in fact, take them to the next level as well. So I think it's a very different looking McLaren, a McLaren that we're not really used to. If you look back, say 10, 15 years ago when Ron Dennis was at the helm. I think a team with a lot more sort of appreciation for what McLaren actually was when it started back in the day, a lot more sort of passion involved in the brand, and I'm very excited about it. And I think Ricciardo was a great signing, I think an inspired move. They're certainly not going to lose by going to the Mercedes-Benz engine. I don't think that the Renault engine is going to come out with anything special and be quicker than the Mercedes-Benz engine. So definitely, I think two opportunities for them to improve the engine and the driver.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on to Ferrari, we've got Charles Leclerc, we've got Carlos Sainz for next year. Of course, Gary, we could spend a whole show just talking about Ferrari and where they are and how they're going to do things. They're going to be using their tokens. They've got a brand new engine for 2021. One can only hope that we have a much more competitive Ferrari, not only if you're a Ferrari fan, but just for Formula One, you have to have a strong Ferrari, and hopefully from 2021 they're getting their sums right, they're getting their aero right, that all of a sudden Leclerc and Sainz can go out there and do something competitive. Leclerc's driving the wheels of that car. His qualifying in the last Grand Prix was unbelievable, but then it's one of those, unfortunately, that just go backwards. And had there not been the safety car, Gary, every single driver besides Max Verstappen would have been lapped at that Grand Prix.
Exactly. But I think, look, Carlos Sainz is a brave driver. I think going to Ferrari with Leclerc was a brave move. I rate Leclerc. I think he's an exceptionally quick driver as well. On his day, I think certainly a contender for Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. I think he's up there. There's no two ways about it. So Sainz, I think, has got all to prove at Ferrari. And of course, all the customer teams as well, with this new engine. You've got Alfa Romeo, you've got Haas running those engines as well. Those guys also need an engine that's going to be able to perform. And it's frustrating when you're paying for the thing and it's still not going. That's frustrating. Ferrari are building them themselves, their own engine. Okay, well, whatever, it's not quick enough. But we're not paying you big bucks for something, it's not working. It's going to start getting a little bit frustrating if it doesn't start to work.
I couldn't agree with you more. Also, very good evening. Nikki says, love Lando. There we go. So many comments coming through here as well. We will give you that answer to the question towards the end of the show. Final team to look at, Gary, of course, Aston Martin, which it'll be next year, Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll. They've got the elements coming together. I think there are more and more people that are getting involved over there. But this is a huge gamble for Sebastian Vettel. Yes, he was brilliant when he joined Toro Rosso. From there, immediately got snapped up and worked with the Red Bull team. That was incredible. Went to Ferrari. Ferrari was good, but not good enough. Didn't give him enough resources. He could have won and maybe should have won the championship with him, but it didn't happen. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to a team which is not going to be the same as working with Ferrari. It's not going to be the same as working with Red Bull. It's a big gamble for him because he's a very emotive kind of person. He needs something to keep him motivated all of the time. And you know, this is either going to be make or break for Sebastian Vettel.
You know, Sasha, yes, it is. In a way, it isn't. I mean, we know that he's also got shares now in the team. And I think we basically called that before this deal was even announced that, at this point in his career, it would make sense to start taking some ownership of something, and he's done just that. I think Vettel's a smart guy, out of the car as well, apart from being a hell of a quick driver. Got to remember, 4 times world champion. I think also just in terms of Stroll, it's a massive test for Stroll. This is really where, this is going to be his asset test in Formula 1. He's got to go out there and try and beat Vettel if he can. If he doesn't, well then, he's going to unfortunately just live with the tag that he has been tagged with, and that's going to be that. But I think it is a move by Vettel. And it also suggests, we said just now, for the time being, you'd see Toto staying with Mercedes-Benz, but we don't know how long Mercedes-Benz are going to be in Formula 1. And I think the worrying thing for Formula 1, and I'm going to jump around a little bit here, is the fact that Honda are putting out. There's got to be other manufacturers that are talking about saying to themselves, is the cost of this engine program in Formula 1 worth being in right now, in terms of where the world is going with electric vehicles, etc., etc., etc. So, maybe this going on here, and maybe Formula 1 does what we've all kind of been saying, and going back to some more of a racing formula and focusing on what racing and what show business is, because that's ultimately what we want to see. Yes, always an element of development. People say, yes, the technology's passed down to road cars and everything. Maybe sometimes, not all the time. I think first and foremost, the things that it's got to be a show, and that's what we want to see. And I think Vettel, why would Vettel have invested in the team? And he's been very outspoken in terms of these engines and where Formula 1 is right now. And he's never supported it from day one of going to this hybrid era. So, I think there's things afoot, and yes, the Concord agreement has been signed, but it's only a piece of paper at the end of the day. And let's see. I think it's going to be an interesting team. And it'd be interesting to see what Vettel is going to do in all of his capacities that he's involved in there.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad you digressed onto that in terms of the engine issue as well. And I know that they've signed the Concord agreement to the end of 2025, and they're going to continue with the same engine, but it's not going to be too much development. It is where it is. Gary, I believe Formula 1 at this stage have to make some kind of decision before the beginning of the 2021 season to sit and say, hold on a second. Between 2022 and 2025, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And at 2026, this is how we're going to do. We're going to go back to a V8, a V10. We're going to stay with V6 turbos, but we're going to drop the electric side of things or whatever. These engines are magnificent. They are so brilliant that what we have in Formula 1, that this will be 20 years before any of this kind of technology actually gets into some kind of a road car. They are way too advanced for where they are. We should have started this hybrid era in 2026 and not 2014.
Listen, the fact that Tesla's tripled their profit in the last 3 months, or whatever it was that I heard this morning, if I'm correct in saying what I'm saying, I think gives you an indication of where things are going. And that's just full on electric vehicles. So yes, we've got Formula E, have Formula E, electric vehicle. I don't mind driving an electric car on the road every day. I've got to be totally honest with you, in particular with all the development that's going on, and the fact that we can probably run our houses off our cars after they've been charged at work all day or whatever it may be. Absolutely nothing wrong. But when it comes to racing in Formula 1, you want to watch the gladiators of our sport out there doing what they do. And you can say what you can say about the engines and all the good stuff about it. At the end of the day, we've lost something with Formula 1, and everybody's trying to speak it up and try to make it and justify what it's all about, etc., etc., etc. It's expensive. It's not as good as it was, and they've got to look at going back to something else that starts making sense for everybody from a cost and a show point of view.
Yeah, I agreed 100%. That's we'll tackle that one of these fine days as well. Okay, that's the city. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, I mean, it's an amazing city season, and I think I want to just mention Mick Schumacher as well. And yes, we all know he's the son of Michael Schumacher and what have you. I think the job that he's done so far in his career has been fantastic. You got to remember his dad. He's not around to the capacity that a lot of other dads around. You'd expect him to, just because he comes he's the son of a 7-time world champion. At this point in time, unfortunately, you've got to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. And he's done this thing on his own. Yes, of course, he's got his uncle, he's got other advisors around him. But, when everybody goes home at 10 o'clock at night, there's no family discussion about, or that we know of, about the racing. So I think Mick Schumacher's done a wonderful job. And I really would like to see him in Formula One. And there is a bit of emotion involved in that. But, I do think that he would be valuable for a Formula One team. And it certainly looks like he's got a great head on his shoulders. And the alpha drive or harsh drive, but I would think more alpha would be a great deal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I also take my hat off to how he's just presented himself as a professional sports person, and he doesn't walk around with any form of arrogance. He goes out there, he knows exactly what he has to do, and he's taken his time. So to see Mick Schumacher, I think in Formula One in 2021, I think is going to be something incredibly special. So this weekend we returned to the beautiful country of Portugal to a brand new circuit for Formula One. The circuit has been there for a while. There's a lot of MotoGP action that takes place and a whole lot of other racing that takes place as well. We had Matt a little bit earlier telling us about the circuit, the undulations. When I look at that graphic, Gary, when I first saw it, the one thing I just hadn't said, it's a little bit too much like Barcelona. But I think there are unique attributes to this circuit that hopefully is going to allow itself for some great Formula One racing.
Let's hope so, Sasha. Look, I mean, Mugello, for example, was a great race for all kinds of different reasons and crashes and what have you. But it threw up a great show. And let's see. I hope Portimao does something similar. And I don't mean the crashes. I agree with you. Let's hope that we see some great racing throughout the field. And listen, you mentioned the weather just now. Maybe some inclement weather is going to be what we need to shake things up as well. So let's see. Look, it's always great to see cars on a new track that hasn't been raced on before. And as I mentioned previously, the one thing that COVID has sort of allowed Formula One to do is race on so many of the European tracks, which in my opinion is where Formula One was built. Yes, it is a world championship, but Europe is the backbone of Formula One, and it's been good to see so much of it happening in European tracks and on different European tracks.
100%. Okay, so we got a little video which takes us around the track. A guy actually driving on a sim, but with a great commentary, and he has a great knowledge of Formula One. So check this out, and this is give us a little bit of an understanding of the Portimao circuit and also the sausage curve that we spoke about a little bit earlier.
Okay, so let's start the lap here. Now going into turn one, so as I mentioned guys before, this will most likely be modified by Formula One. As you can see here, it's a pretty high speed entry, and that's what I was talking about. It's very similar to Suzuka. If I just back it up here a little bit, it's very similar to Suzuka in the way you throw the car into the first turn, and then there's another turn that comes right after that. But then here's another one as you go into turn three. Now, if I pause it right here, you can see on the entry corner to the curb, you see the big yellow sausage curb, or verstoppers, whatever you want to call them. These curbs are really, really tricky. You don't want to get those outside wheels onto those curbs. So you want to keep the car right onto the red, white, and strip curbs here, hitting the apex nice and cleanly. So out of turn four, turn five here is flat, and I'm just going to pause it here. So this is what I was talking about before with the elevation changes. When you're sitting on the floor of a Formula One car and you're looking up, you really can't see the exit of the corner. You can only see the apex here. And as we get to some of the later corners, you can't even see the apex just because of the elevation changes. So very, very similar to Spa in that regard, or let's say turn 9 at the Circuit of the Americas. So turn 5, this is flat in a Formula Renault, so it should be easy flat in an F1 car. Now this is one of the longer straights heading into a bigger braking zone in turn 6. So if I just pause it here on the entry to the apex, I missed it just a little bit, so I outbraked myself just slightly. But again, you see at these slower speed corners and the hairpins, filled with these yellow sausage curves. But So you probably won't have to get anywhere close to those curves, but maybe in the race, for example, if you have to take an evasive maneuver to watch another car, it could damage the car, possibly running over those sausage curbs. So out of turn 6, stay to the right-hand side, coming over to the left. Turn 7 is flat in the Formula Renault. And then here comes turn 8. So this is one of the more trickier, challenging sectors on the entire circuit, which is here sector 2. So if I back it up just a little bit here, coming out of turn 6, turn 7, not much of a turn, but as I pause it here after turn 7, just here, right as you start to go over the hills when you only see corner 8 emerge. So this is the first blind apex of the circuit, which it took me a couple tries to get first time just because I didn't even see it coming over the crest. So you hook the car to the right, you hit the apex curb right there. You want to get the car close to this red and white curb. If you run, you can easily run wide on the circuit. So as the experts always say, and the driver coaches will always say, you win more time on corner exit than you do on entry. So slow in and fast out. So don't try to win too much time on the entry to this corner. And then right away afterwards, you got the other corner, turn 9, Samsung. And then this is another one where there's a change of elevation and you're going to be going uphill right away. So you hook the car into the inside of the apex. I missed it slightly there. And then over the hill once again. And then you're going to be coming into turn 10, which is flat in the Renault. And now this is the trickiest part of the circuit, in my opinion, and the one I found most difficulty with. As you come over turn 10 here, heading into 11, Portimao, it's completely blind. And it's a very quick double apex corner, but the second apex comes even quicker than the first one does. So as you hook the car over, you got to immediately get it over to the right, first apex there, and second one right there. So I overshot it there, as you can see. Let me just back that up once again so you can see it. So as you come over the hill once again, you can see just how blind it is. So you have to immediately anticipate the next corner for turn 11. And here it is, hook the car all the way to the right, and then right on the brakes, just missed the apex again. But it's okay because the track is wider, so you can allow yourself to run off a little bit, but you will lose track time by going wide there. Now that the complicated stuff is over, turn 12 is an easy flat. As we head into turn 13, a smaller braking zone, but you can win some time there. Once again, I went slightly wide. Then heading into 14, no need for brakes, just a slight lift there, getting into the inside of the corner. And then this is very similar to sector 3 of the Circuit of the Americas, and the rest of the lap here is flat through. Get the car to the right so you don't run out wide to the left, and you're all the way flat as you run down to the start-finish straight. Most likely there will be a DRS zone here as well, and that is a lap of the Algarve circuit in Portugal.
Gary, that circuit looks unbelievably fun to drive. It's going to be super fast for these guys.
Yeah, it looked great. As I said, it's always been a circuit. When you look at this, particularly the bike racing there, it's looked like a fantastic circuit, and going to be wonderful to see Formula 1 there. With the amount of downforce they have and the kind of cornering speeds they can actually, handle. I think it's going to be amazing to see them around there.
I tell you, I can't wait for tomorrow morning, see first free practice, see you can actually hook it up. I think we're going to have a couple of guys slipping and sliding all over the place, but it's going to be amazing. Let's get back to our question. And listen, if you did get it right, congratulations. I can't go through all of the comments, but thank you very much for all of the comments. I'll go through them over the next couple of hours as well. What was peculiar about the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix with regard to David Coulthard? Do you know the answer, Gary?
I do. He used Michael Schumacher's helmet in race because he left his, or there was some problem with his helmet, and he had to use one of Michael Schumacher's spare helmets.
Back in those days, you used to have the warm-up on a Sunday morning. You remember? You used to have the warm-up, and it was pouring with rain. David Coulthard had his helmet on, and no matter what they did, he couldn't get the water from not coming into his helmet, and went to Michael Schumacher and asked if he could borrow one of his helmets. Michael said, sure, and Coulthard finished second.
It was before he gave Michael the finger.
The one finger in France.
That's it.
There we go. There we go, guys. Listen, Shook, we've really shot over this evening. Thank you very much for your time. To Fritz and Henk for doing such an amazing job. Lots of pictures that we had to show you. Gary, I can't wait for this weekend. I think we're just in for something hopefully very special.
Yeah, look, I think so too. I think this weekend may throw something up a little bit different for us, something so. But yeah, I listen again. I think the appreciation is going to be seeing these kind of cars. Do yourself a favor. Look at some of the lap times, some of the other categories doing around the circuit, and look at the lap times the Formula One car does around there this weekend. I think you'll just be amazed once again just how fast these cars are and just how spectacular they are.
Yeah, let's see. I think the lap record at the moment is 1 minute 31. So let's see what Formula One gets to eventually by qualifying on Saturday. Gary, enjoy it. We'll catch you on Supersport this coming weekend. Are you going to be there?
It looks like it. I think so. I hope so. It looks like we're going to be there. Talking about MotoGP as well. So, yeah, another exciting race weekend. Look, the one thing that's good, we've had racing almost every single weekend. I mean, it's not bad. For people like us, it's a good thing. So, it's been great.
Yeah, good luck to the Binder boys and everybody else. MotoGP at Aragon this weekend. Formula One in Portimao. And listen, thanks very much for joining us right here on F1 Pitbox with raceday.tv. Gary, we'll chat to you soon, my friend.
Take it easy, Sasha. Thanks, man.
Okay, take care. Ciao, ciao.